Welcome to the Israel Daily News Podcast. I'm your host, Shanna Fold, and I'm here to get you caught up quickly. I've got some top news stories for you today from Israel, and guess what? You're listening, so you're already on top of your game. Survive and thrive, people. Knowledge is the best weapon. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and the 28th of Cheshvan, 5786 in the Hebrew calendar. Now, let's get to the news. 4 people were injured and 1 person was killed in a terror attack at the Gush Etzion Junction on Tuesday. According to Magen David Adom Emergency Services, one of the injured people is a woman. She's in critical condition, with 2 others in moderate to serious condition, and 1 person being lightly hurt. The attack was carried out by 2 individuals who rammed into pedestrians at the junction before one got out and tried to stab victims. Rescue teams discovered several pipe bombs in the attacker's car, but the attackers were shot by security forces at the scene. On Tuesday, a farewell ceremony was held at Ben Gurion Airport for slain former hostage Joshua Loitu Mollel, with state officials including Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskel, friends and colleagues from Israel's Agro Studies program, where Mollel was studying, including the founder Yaron Tamir, in attendance. The ceremony was live streamed for family and friends in Mollel's home country of Tanzania. Following the playing of the Israeli and Tanzanian national anthems, a ceremonial wreath was laid atop his coffin. Ambassador Einat Schlein, the director of Mashav, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, announced that a program would be founded in Tanzania in his honor to provide more resources for agricultural students. Mollel was remembered for his vivacious smile and for his dreams that were taken from him too soon. The Israel Daily News spoke with a friend of Mollel, a fellow Tanzanian agricultural student named Ahmadi Salum, who arrived in Israel just 9 days after Joshua. The two met months earlier in Dar es Salaam, first over the phone and then in person after Joshua helped him sort out a problem with his visa documents. They started being friends in May of 2023 when, in English, we'll call him Joshua, but he's also referred to as Yoshua. Yeshua offered him help with his paperwork, and then the 2 young men met ahead of their respective departures. Ahmadi explained that the 2 men were assigned to different farms once they arrived in Israel. Yeshua at Kibbutz Nachal Oz, working the nightly shift at the dairy, and he himself at an open field farm near Zohar. Their last conversation took place on the night of October 6th. Late at night, Joshua was preparing to head out for his overnight shift. Quote, "He told me he was eating and then going to work," Ahmadi recalled on the phone with us. "He started at 11 p.m. and finished at 11 a.m. the next morning." When the attacks began at dawn on October 7th, students across the Agro Studies program were accounted for, except for Yeshua and the colleague who lived with him. That colleague was later found safe at home. Yeshua, however, was taken from the dairy farm by Hamas terrorists. Ahmadi told us he never imagined such a thing could happen. Their government assured them Israel was safe for foreign students, and the group trusted the security situation. Even after October 7th, they chose to remain. Open quote, "We stayed because the security and the care were so good," he said. "We trusted the security." But when a video of Joshua or Yeshua's murder began circulating online, Ahmadi's world was shattered. He told us that he had been working when he saw the footage of his friend. He could not continue his shift. He said he was very disappointed, that it was a devastating video, and that he couldn't believe his friend was gone. For months, he and other Tanzanian students lived with the painful uncertainty. Was Yeshua's body intact? Was it preserved? Would it ever be returned home? We never knew what happened to our friend, he told us. We did not know if his dead body would be recovered for us to show our gratitude and respect. Well, that answer finally came this week when Joshua's body was sent back to Tanzania after 761 days in Gaza. The students attended Tuesday's airport ceremony, overwhelmed by what they witnessed. Dozens of Israelis, people who had never met Joshua, came to honor him. Some held posters bearing his face, others simply stood silently to pay their respects. Amadi told us it was an emotional morning for him and that he was not expecting so many people with so much love to come out, including so many non-affiliated Israelis. He said he feels his friend's soul will rest now in peace. We also discussed over the phone the differences in faith and burials. Amadi said that Joshua was Christian and usually Christians have an open casket. He wondered if the casket today was closed because the body looked too horrific, or if perhaps there were too few remains to show something. Amadi himself is Muslim and told us in his faith the casket always comes to the funeral closed. That's the same like in the Jewish faith. Amadi says the Tanzanian students are grateful to the Israeli government, the Agro Studies program, and the IDF soldiers who fought to bring Joshua home. He also expressed hope multiple times for the 3 remaining families of the hostages whose bodies have not yet been returned. I'm very glad that we took the interview with him. He didn't want to be recorded. He said that he spent so much of his time this morning speaking to individuals, to press, and that he was feeling spent. But he did speak to us at length on the phone. And wow, what an unbelievable young man who is still here in Israel. He actually graduated in 2024 with his agricultural degree and might be looking for work here in Israel, but that is not clear to us. We here at the Israel Daily News send our condolences to the family, the friend, the community in Tanzania who are getting their young Joshua back in a coffin. The body of 73-year-old Menny Goddard was returned to Israel and then laid to rest on Monday, November 17th. More than 2 years after Islamic Jihad terrorists abducted him from his home in Kibbutz Be'eri and took him to Gaza. Officials identified his remains and notified his family. Menny and his wife Ayelet were both killed in the October 7th attack. Israel says it's pushing hard to bring back the remaining slain hostages and insists Hamas follow through on its commitments to return their bodies, which has taken more than a month. The Israeli government is moving forward with the creation of a new commission to examine the failures that enabled Hamas's October 7th, 2023 slaughter. It will not be established as a state commission of inquiry. Instead, cabinet ministers will determine the scope, topics, and timelines of the investigation. Prime Minister Netanyahu will appoint a ministerial team that will have 45 days to define the commission's mandate. Officials say the body will be independent and hold full investigative authority, and that its composition will be shaped with the broad public approval in mind. The decision comes after months of debate over what form such an inquiry should take. Opposition leaders criticized the move, arguing that only a state commission can offer full independence. Yair Lapid said the decision avoids confronting the necessary questions surrounding October 7th. Israeli General Gadi Eisenkot says a commission appointed by the cabinet risks limiting the examination of critical issues. In October 2025, settler violence skyrocketed to the highest number of monthly attacks on record since data tracks began in 2006. In November 2025, Israeli settlers set fire to a mosque in 2 villages, causing extensive damage, and attacked the Palestinian village of Beit Lid and a nearby industrial zone, setting fire to 4 dairy trucks, farmland, and tents belonging to Bedouins. Israeli soldiers and police responded, arresting 4 Israelis, 3 of whom were later released, drawing big criticism. Also this month, Israeli settlers were seen torturing lambs in a Palestinian-owned pen. Throughout the olive harvest season, more than 150 attacks have occurred, along with damage to hundreds of olive trees. On Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned settler violence and vowed to take forceful action. Netanyahu called these extremists a minority that goes into Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, however you call it, and does not represent a large community of law-abiding, loyal settlers. And by the way, I'm the one that is saying it's either Judea and Samaria or the West Bank, depending on how you call it. Prime Minister Netanyahu, of course, calls it Judea and Samaria. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed that the U.S. will sell F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia. This came after his meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who made his first visit to the White House since 2018. The Israeli Air Force opposes the move, saying Israel's air superiority in the region could be damaged by this deal. Israel currently operates 45 F-35 jets, some of which have been in operation for nearly a decade. In the past, Israel worked to prevent the sale of F-35s to other nearby countries, including Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. The New York Times reported last week that U.S. intelligence and defense officials also expressed concern about the deal, saying it could harm Israel's military dominance in the Middle East. Some U.S. lawmakers remain wary of deepening cooperation with Saudi Arabia in general. Keep in mind, Saudi Arabia has only recently become friendly to Israel, friendly to the United States within the last several years under new leadership. But in the past, Saudi Arabia was a hostile country that nobody wanted to have major weapons. On Monday, the UN Security Council voted to adopt a U.S.-backed resolution calling for the establishment of an international stabilization force that will help rebuild Gaza, which is in line with U.S. President Trump's 21-point peace plan to end the war. The deal is weakening, with Israel pledging to resume fighting if Hamas does not disarm. While the U.S. claims Hamas leaders pledged to disarm before the deal was signed, Trump's 21-point peace plan also includes that the International Stabilization Force will take part in the demilitarization of Gaza, a highly militarized place right now. The Israel Defense Forces killed 2 terrorists who crossed over the yellow line and advanced on troops in southern Gaza on Tuesday. The terrorists were killed to remove the threat to Israeli soldiers who were in the combat field in Gaza up until that yellow line. These were the agreed upon lines. This incident comes after several other terrorists also crossed the yellow line on Monday and were also killed. In one of the incidents on Monday, a terrorist tried to approach IDF troops and was killed after he, quote, posed an immediate threat. In another incident, a terrorist was seen planting suspicious items in the ground adjacent to troops. He was struck immediately. The remaining terrorists who were there fled the scene. Are you looking for a private English-speaking dermatologist in Tel Aviv? A new private skin clinic just opened by Canadian-Israeli doctor Tal Raviv to address any skin concerns in English, French, and Hebrew. Now is the perfect time to get moles and sunspots checked after a long Israeli summer. Has anything new popped up on your skin? Visit Raviv Dermal at Hakovshim 30 near the Carmel Market in Tel Aviv to get your post-summer skin check now and screen for any potential suspicious skin lesions. Don't forget to mention Israel Daily News for 10% off your service. To book, you can WhatsApp message 052-518-5487 or Instagram message Raviv Dermal. For more information, check the show notes of our podcast and our full article on our website, israeldailynews.org. That'll give you all the explaining and details that you might need to know. I want to thank all of you for your interest in Israeli affairs. Israeli politics are world politics. I also want to thank all of you who personally finance and fund the Israel Daily News podcast with monthly contributions. You can support us with contributions by going over to our website, israeldailynews.org, and clicking on donate. The Patreon link is over there, and you can send us a monthly donation using that Patreon link. There's also an option for a one-time donation. Our organization is operational thanks to listeners and supporters like you. Thank you to Marianne Vollinger for her monthly support. In response for your contributions, I'll send over a handwritten thank you note tweet to show my appreciation. Follow us on social media at israeldaily.news. We are on X, YouTube, TikTok, and on Instagram. Our page is about to hit 40,000 followers. You can also follow my personal page at Shanna Fold. My name has 2 N's in it, and I'm very sensitive about that. New York City Mayor Eric Adams delivered an emotional and candid talk on Sunday night at a private 150-person reception in Tel Aviv's Sarona neighborhood. Yes, here in Tel Aviv. The Israel Daily News was present for this. I was on scene. As we approached, there were protesters standing outside holding signs reading, "New York City Jews aren't safe. Shame on Eric Adams." And Mayor Adams failed New York City Jews. Well, inside, Adams spoke openly about his reputation being destroyed, the pressure to resign, and the strength that he draws from his mother. That was all before he started getting into a discussion about rising global anti-Semitism, saying, everything is not fine. The community must prepare themselves, have situational awareness, and know that there is a layer of global hostility toward the Jewish community. He sharply criticized anti-Israel activism, the globalize the Intifada slogan, social media misinformation, and what he called a growing comfort with anti-Semitism on college campuses and around the world. Adams framed his support for Israel as deeply personal, reminding the audience that the Jewish community backed him through every stage of his political rise. Eric Adams answered questions from the moderator about the challenges that he faced during his time as mayor, and he addressed the corruption charges, the fraud charges, why it's important for minority communities to be supporters of one another, particularly of the Jewish community, and what the future of New York City might look like. Let's have a listen to some highlights that we recorded from his talk. And if you hear Mayor Adams mentioning him or he, it's about Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani, who's coming in as the new mayor of New York City. Enjoy these sound bites from the event.
It was the most painful moment of my entire life. I saw my name destroyed. I saw my reputation destroyed after so many years of protecting the family name. It was hard. There were days I did not want to get out of bed. But I would hear my mother's voice saying, baby, get up, you got this. And I got up. And I think that because I got up, I was placed in right places at the right time to do what was best for the city of New York. Anyone can sit in the bleachers and talk about how they will move the ball down the field, but it's something to be on the field and see how challenging it is. Well, being mayor is both substantive and is symbolic. They both go together, and they're just as important. The substance is bringing down crime, educating children, bringing jobs, making sure that families have the necessities that they deserve. But there's also the symbolism. There are things that we do to send a symbol that one is welcome. And he has failed to do that. You can't give the finger to the Christopher Columbus statue. That means something to the Italian community. You cannot be slow on defining that you do not embrace globalized Intifada. So the symbolism of being a leader is just as important as the substance. And I think he must stand up and show that he could be a leader of the city with all of its diversity. Even if you don't agree or you disagree, you must be a leader for everyone in the city, because your words actually can translate into the actions of others. And you may think that you're just saying something, but in fact, in the era when people are using verbal violence to turn into political violence, you can lay the table to some sick mind out there that believe it's okay to be harmful to any particular group. And I think he has to have the level of political maturity to understand that governing is not protesting. He has to move away from that. And all those who are in his midst, like the Democratic Socialists of America, he needs to explain to them he's now the mayor. He's no longer someone that's just protesting in the city of New York. He has to protect the city of New York. And that's a different mindset that he must have, and he must make sure the team around him understands that. That was abnormal in New York. You would not even think about running for office and being anti-Semitic. It's one thing if someone has a hidden anti-Semitic agenda or racist agenda. But when you can comfortably run on a platform that is about hate towards the group, we got to meet that head on and fight it. I'm happy to be here in Israel. When I ran for state senate, the Jewish community was here for me. When I ran for borough president, becoming the first African American to hold that position, the community was here. When I ran for mayor, becoming the second African American, the community was here. This has been my ascension, and my ability to do the things that was good for the city is because of this community. This community has contributed so much to New York, to America, and humankind. I acknowledge that and I recognize that. From the days of marching with Dr. King to opening schools of color, we've always had a relationship. And so I don't want anyone to consider me to be just a mayor. I'm your brother. Thank you.
Well, I think that he left everyone, especially the Jewish community, with an uplifting spirit. He also spoke about the Christians, the thousands of Christians that are being slaughtered in Nigeria as we speak. He talked about that. He referred to it as a general anti-Jewish, anti-Christian, anti-faith moment that we're living through in history. I'm actually going to be releasing an interesting podcast about a show called The Saints, Martin Scorsese's The Saints. This is a show about saints from Christianity, and a lot of the actors in this show are Israeli actors, and it's going to be a really interesting interview. I took the interview today. It's going to be very fascinating for anybody who's interested in faith, and there's a lot of Christian-Jewish crossover, so I think you're going to enjoy this show when it comes out. It's an interview with the series executive producer, Mati Leshem. So keep an ear out for that. I also talk about the devastation on the Christian community in that show. I'm also going to be writing about that for the Jerusalem Post magazine come Christmas time. I'm going to be talking about all the Christmas activities that are coming up here in the Holy Land. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, keep an eye out for my work. All right. Well, that is it for today's show. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Tel Aviv has a low of 17 degrees Celsius and a high of 23 degrees. That's 62 degrees Fahrenheit for the low, going up to 82 degrees for the high. We are everywhere. Don't forget to sign up to our Israel Weekly News Wrap. The Israel Weekly News Wrap is a newsletter with the top 5 stories coming out of Israel from throughout the week. That comes out on Sundays. Sometimes it comes out on Mondays. And of course, it has a personal note from me at the top. You can sign up for that at israeldailynews.org. Have a great and productive day and an excellent week. Shavua Tov, everyone.